So, next thing, tell me about the story, Chris. I'm going to do a lot more about the story in the future, but I will give you the very, very basic synopsis. So, here, this is a character. That's our elf with a chainsaw. And I think he's a really good sort of example of what this world is, right? And the story of the world is that there's an old world and there's a new world. And the old world is sort of a European style. It's where the humans are, and there's various peoples there. And long ago, these peoples went and colonized a brand new continent. And when they went and colonized that continent, there were huge colonial wars that happened when they colonized that continent. And those colonial wars encouraged the people of that continent to fight back, sort of the native peoples of that. And one of the native peoples of that continent were the Highborn. And you can see here's one of the Highborn in his more modern state. And this is hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So hundreds and hundreds of years ago, there were these huge, incredible wars. And during these huge, incredible wars, the Highborn said, we need some powerful magic. And because the humans had brought with them these things called constructs. And the constructs are sort of mech kind of things. I don't have any great art for the constructs to show yet. We're still working on that. But they had built these sort of crosses between magic and machinery, sort of magic machinery that, like catapults that could walk and things like that. And the Highborn said, we need some magic to fight this with. And so they summoned what at the moment we're calling them the wood spawn. I don't like wood spawn. I'm going to come up with a better name for them. But the idea being spirits of the forest, creatures and spirits of the forest. And so let's see, Silverwood, I believe, has some of the spirits of the forest. And so here you can see sort of the idea of the forest spirits and things that they summoned and brought to this world, right? And so suddenly the war becomes very unbalanced because these forest spirits become extremely powerful. And at the time, the orcs, who were one of the other native, groups of the new continent, they said, this sucks. We need somebody to go fight these guys for us, right? And so they did their own sort of summoning, and their summoning produced what we're calling right now the infected. And we'll come up with a better name of that. Yes, orcs are conformed. Orcs are a big part of this game. And so the orcs summoned basically spirits of death. And the spirits of death they're not normal undead. It's not like a mystical undead skeletons and stuff like that. What it was it was actually sort of these weird fungal growths that covered people and infected them and rotted out their brains and filled them with sort of death spirit fungal growth stuff, right? What ends up happening is the world just gets destroyed. The new world it falls into this sort of death spiral of all of these things that got summoned taking over the world, and everybody else is like, hey, screw this, back, and they back up and they sort of hide in caves and stuff, and the world just becomes sort of a desolate wasteland where these wild forest spirits and these magical mechanical creations and these fungus growth infected undead things constantly fight. And everybody else kind of hides in the woods or hides in the caves and kind of hopes it all gets better. And the humans go back to their old continent because they're like, yo, screw this. This place is crazy. This is cray-cray. I'm not into this, right? And hundreds of years pass. And after those hundreds of years pass, the people of the old world develop better tools, better technology, and they become sort of, I guess the best way to think of it is where's what I'm looking for? Yeah, here's a good example. So this guy, they become modern, like 1700s level technology modern. They have cannons, they have frigates, they have galleons. So the world becomes sort of based around the technology and the themes of the like 1750s in our world. And so they load up on all their galleons, they load up on all their ships, and they go back to the new world to colonize the new world. But when they get to the new world, they find out, well, some stuff's gone down since we were here last time. And some of the stuff that's gone down is these people who retreated into the woods or into the caves or into these places, they created strong magical powers and factions and groups and little armies to fight all of this stuff that's going on in their world. So for instance, this is one of those factions. This is Ivoria, and here you can see they've got, you know, these intelligent monkeys that go fight these weird forest spirits, and of course our vampiric lemurs that have been, you know, summoned and whatnot. So we have so what ends up happening is you've got this world that's entirely controlled by little tiny mercenary armies and little mercenary kings, and they're fighting with each other. And you bring yourself into this world to go through a story. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what the story is yet, because I want to save some stuff for some later broadcasts. So we'll talk more about who you are and what your story is, but that's the world. And so as we fight through these worlds, we'll be having units that are based on different factions, based on different races, based on different technologies. Some will have magic, some will have, you know, chainsaws. So it's a very sort of broad world with lots of things to go see and do. And the spirit of the game is you're constantly putting together new mercenary armies based on these warring factions that exist in this new world. And the new world is called Kothia. It was suggested at one point that this would be Legends of Kothia, but that was roundly put down. Nobody wants to have another game named after things that people can't pronounce. We found that was a bad idea with Callasia. So that's the world. That's kind of the way things are. Here's, for instance, one of the monkey warriors. This is I think we call him a tusked ape. So yeah, this kind of gives you an idea. Let me show you a little bit more of what the world looks like. I think we've got some great units over in Saltiaruma. So for instance, you've got, here's one of our galleons. You know, you can see the sort of level of technology. It's not a fantasy game in the sense of, you know, it's all medieval. It's much more modern. And here she is. I knew I could find her if I kept looking for her. Here's the lead character of our game. And those of you who played Callasia may recognize this young lady. You say, well, yeah, she's Olivia from Legends of Callasia. Yeah, hell she is. Basically, I loved this character from Legends of Callasia so much, but she got put into that game sort of late, and I feel like she just really didn't really get her time. And I thought she was just way too interesting a character to not have in the game. So when we decided to put together the new game, and we needed a lead character, I just thought this is the one. And her backstory, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. She went in one of the early colonial armies when the Reconquest, as it's called. The Reconquest is when the old world goes back to the new world and tries to take it over again. And she was in one of the Reconquest armies, and some shit went down. I'm not going to tell you what shit yet, but some shit went down, some bad shit, and she ends up not being there anymore, and ends up being a pirate from the seaport of Saltiaruma, which is where the game actually starts, in Saltiaruma, which is an island off the coast of Kothia. And she has to, for reasons we'll talk about later, she has to go into Kothia and form a mercenary army and go do some stuff. And we'll talk about what stuff later. But the story begins with Olivia, who is now a pirate working out of the mercenary port of Saltiaruma, finding out that she's got to go back to Kothia. That's where the story starts. So, for those of you who wanted pirates, your main character in the game is a one-armed pirate. So you got that going for you. And I love her. She's cool. But anyway, that's the lead character of the game. That's the face of Last Regiment. I'm really proud of her. I think she's some wonderful art. The core team of this game, it's the core team from Legends of Callasia. The programmer, Adrian, same programmer from Legends of Callasia. Creative director, me, same dude. Marketing, Monica, same person. Edwin was on Legends of Callasia. Erwin, who's doing a bunch of art for us, was on Legends of Callasia. Uncle June, who was doing a bunch of art for us, was on Legends of Callasia. So That's all I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to leave her up on screen because she's beautiful. And I'm going to answer any questions. I'm going to like take a deep breath. Merlin asks, Chris, you talked a bunch about the units, but will there be non-unit stuff from each faction you can take? That's a great question. And this is actually a change that we made in the game recently. When we originally designed this, the idea was that you would have different powers and different units that you could take as part of your regiment. So you could have like a heal spell or a fireball spell. But as we started some of the early playtesting, two things came up. One was the question of, who am I? Who am I in the game? Who am I playing? And am I a god character that looks down on the world? That's not how the game plays. The game I'm actually Olivia. Wait, let's see if I can do this again. Her. I'm her, right? And so we wanted to make sure that there was a her on the board that was doing things. And what I think really sets us apart from, say, a trading card game is that we have a map and that we have a space and that you have to think spatially. And so when we started looking at these powers like heal or give a buff to one of my units or something like that, instead of putting it over in the regiment bar and saying that's a power that you can use anywhere on the map, we said, what if we gave those powers to the units and made the unit get in a position where they could use that thing? And now it creates a much more sort of tactical situation where I'm not just saying I want to heal that guy. It's I need to get the wizard who's got the ability to heal over near enough to that guy that he can be healing that guy. And all of these different powers now have ranges. So for instance, you may have a heal with a range of 4. And so I can actually have her like hidden in the forest back behind the lines, and she's healing people or buffing people or doing cool stuff with her cool abilities. And the person who's playing me has to think, I keep fighting all these monkeys and these monkeys are really strong. Who's making these monkeys so strong? And now I got to go back in the woods and find this person who's powering up all the monkeys. So yeah, that's changed a little bit since you saw this at PAX East. Because of that, we felt that was more interesting and more tactical. Dwarfirius asked, you mentioned different buildings with different abilities like a cannon tower. Can any creature activate the cannon tower, even wild animals? Does it require humanoid intelligence? This is one of the places where I think it's going to be kind of fun. One of the things I kind of like about Hearthstone is sometimes it's a little silly. Sometimes you're like, I gave, this ridiculous ability to this ridiculous character, and it's kind of funny. We kind of want some of that to our game. I think that level of humor is a little bit fun. And so, for instance, let's say this tower has the artillery tower, and going into this artillery tower would give you the special ability of, using the artillery that's in the tower as one of your possible special abilities. Yeah, if your lemurs went into that tower, those are some artillery shooting lemurs. Go! So yeah, that's kind of the way I want it to play because I think it's kind of fun. And also, I don't want to give too many like really specialized like this. It's not an RPG. I don't want there to be like, these lemurs have an intelligence of 6 and you need an intelligence of 8 to use the artillery tower like that. This is kind of one of the things that we learned about Callasia was every time you add a rule, you damn well better have it explained in the game really, really well. And you better not try to explain, like I should just know the rules. I shouldn't have to have them explained to me. That was one of the sort of things we learned from Callasia. Will the story be on a level that I can stream during my story playthrough stream times and enthrall my audience? Absolutely. So we're still aiming for a game where one sort of mission, one level takes between 30 minutes to 2 hours, kind of like Callasia did. And if I get in a big, huge, if I make a big map and a big complicated mission, maybe it's a big hour and a half, 2 hour long thing. For some of the smaller ones, maybe half an hour. So that's the dream. So they should play in sort of a time period a little bit like Callasia. And obviously the story will be made up of a number of maps that go through the story. And this is why you're going here and this is why you're doing stuff. So one of the things that's a little different about this game from Legends of Callasia is we can actually do a lot more with the map in this because the map is bigger and it's not just about territories. It's actually about moving through different hexes. So we're actually going to be telling some of these stories through the places and the characters in the map. So this maybe he's part of the story and he's got things to say. So we would actually see like little pop-up text over here where he's like, screw you, come take my city, or you're a chicken, or some shit like that, So we've actually got the story being played out in the map, as opposed to the story always just being some characters that sort of pop up and lay over the map and be like, you need to take over this country. We can actually have the story being told actually deep in the map. So that's one of the changes that we wanted to make the story more interesting and more part of what's going on. So we'll be seeing more of that. That's quite far down the road for us. There's a lot of steps we have to get to before we can get there. But tune in every week and you can see it as it goes.